I was hanging out with one of my crushes the other day. The date was going well until she brought up one of her past sexual encounters in graphic detail. That completely ruined my mood, but I just held it inside. The attraction level is 0 now. Why she told me this, I don't know, but I really wish I hadn't heard that. She wants to hang out again, but her chance is going in the friend zone. Story 1. When she bragged about cheating on her ex because he was not giving her enough attention. Like, girl, if that is how you handle relationship problems, I am running far away. Story 2. Misery. Enjoying others' misery. Wallowing in their own misery. Hatred 2. Just generally embodying a negative emotion too often and for too long. I dance in the rain, so to speak, and I want a partner that does too. Story 3. Texted me while I was at work. Before I got a chance to respond, texted again. Then yet again. Again, but now with question marks. Then again with oh okay. Then once again with have a good day I guess. When I finally got a chance to respond and said, sorry I was at work, couldn't answer, she just picked up like nothing had happened. After this happened 3 or 4 times, I gave up. It irritated me the first time, but I thought maybe it was just because I hadn't explained my work schedule yet, or the fact that, as a father of toddlers, I often don't have the ability to drop everything and pick up my phone immediately to engage in a conversation. But no, even after these things should have been clear, the behavior continued. I texted her saying basically, hey, I get the feeling you're looking for someone with a lot more time and energy to dedicate to you. I just don't have that right now, and it's not fair for me to keep this up when I just can't give you what you need. She didn't see it until after I was at work and proceeded to blow up my phone while I was working with about 10 messages and 3 phone calls in 10 minutes. Story 4. We were on a first date that was going well. Just before dropping her off, I was talking about how I lost my best friend in an accident when we were 18, and it's the reason I don't ride motorbikes anymore. She laughed and made a joke about it. All feelings gone. Story 5. She mirrored everything I wanted and pretended to like cooking, cleaning, and cars, just to have me find out 4 months later she hated all those things and was only trying to impress me, hoping she would learn to enjoy them if she lied enough. Story 6. We were in our 30s. We were chatting, and it was pretty comfortable. She mentioned that she had been a bit promiscuous when she was younger, which didn't bother me. I don't care what you were. I care what you are, and I had been considered promiscuous as well when I was going through college. No big deal. She then began to tell stories about being unfaithful that were most definitely recent enough to not be considered had been, and would be considered currently am. We're talking about not considering anything she does while drunk as cheating, being in love with everyone, how she cheated on her last boyfriend and was upset that he was upset when he found out about it, openly committing adultery for a period of 6 months while being in Germany for work, the whole 9 yards. I'd never seen so many red flags. Quickly left. It was difficult, too, as I didn't know anything about her romantic life but had known her for a few years. She and I clicked on a level that made me think something really could have come out of it. She went from a 10 to a she isn't pretty. She just looks that way in the span of 45 minutes. Some people are the problems they complain about, and they never realize it. Story 7. She was a foodie, and when I let her have a bite of the meal I was eating, she spent about 10 minutes criticizing the texture of the food. I got really annoyed because I was so hungry and hadn't eaten anything that day, and I just wanted to eat and relax. Here she was going on about texture and consistency. I texted her the next day that it wasn't going to work out. The usual reasons I lost attraction were because they displayed selfish behavior and had no accountability. Story 8. Rude to random people or looked down on others in a casual way. Thought it was cute to be snobby. Yuck. From a 10 to a -10 in no time flat. Being humble goes a long way. Story 9. She was hot. She was sexy. She was into me. And on our first date, she went full Karen on the waitress because the Thousand Island dressing on her salad was too cold. Story 10. Was it some extraordinary or disturbing sexual encounter? Or was it just an ordinary sexual encounter which she recounted in too much detail for your taste? Story 11. We ordered pizza and they did not bring napkins and cutlery, so she called them, berated them, and had them come again for a handful of napkins and some plastic knives and forks. Being rude to service workers is a deal breaker for me, Story 12. Dave ended up being really rude to the serving staff at the restaurant we went to. He even did the whole snap thing. I paid for my portion and walked out. The rudeness and entitlement are just a very ugly quality. Story 13. She opened an umbrella at head height in a crowd, completely oblivious and not caring about the 3 people who had to duck out of the way to avoid getting speared in the eyes. She just did not care about anyone but herself. Instant mood killer. Story 14. I remember this girl. She was one of the most beautiful women I had ever seen. However, when she was speaking, she consistently sounded very harsh, full of contempt and disgust. It seemed like a steady stream of criticism of other people, similar to how a narcissist criticizes to tear down people and is addicted to it. It was not just the criticism or substance of the conversation itself. It was the contempt in her voice. I got really bad vibes from her and I would avoid her. Story 15. Years ago in high school, there was a beautiful girl in theater who did not go out with athletes of any kind. I finally got her to go out with me, and we went to a movie. She had the craziest loud laugh, like a loud squeaky baritone wheel. I have never heard anyone laugh like this since then. It still haunts me in my dreams. I just could not get over it. What a shame. She was kind of nice and really pretty. Story 16. I was seeing a girl for a bit. I wanted to find someone long-term for settling down and thought this girl was the one. On our first date, she tells me how she and her ex had sex 15 times in one night and how much she enjoyed it. Yeah, on a first date, that's not something I want to hear. Story 17. On our first date, she showed me the mug shot from her driving under the influence charge. She's smiling in it. She went on to brag about suing her first job and winning by baiting her boss. I didn't call her for a second date. Story 18. I was dating for a few months with a woman who was my type, but I had never seen her place. She always wanted to come to my place because of her neighbor downstairs. Sure. However, one day she invited me over to her place. It was a mess. I don't mean as in, oh, she hasn't cleaned in 2 to 3 days and there are some things in the sink, etc. No, she hadn't cleaned for at least a week. There was a thick layer of dust everywhere, her toilet had skid marks in them, and the kitchen was filthy. And this was after she invited me over to her place. So she would have had time to clean, you'd say. This was a major turn-off for me, and I ended it pretty soon afterward. Sorry, but I can understand you not being squeaky clean all the time, and I won't judge if there's evidence of you living there. But if it's going to be dirty to the point where I'm actively going to look on the calendar to see when you've cleaned last time, then that's an issue. Story 19. Maybe they think it would turn you on like it turns them on. Guys do it too. I remember there was this girl at the bar my friends and I were talking to. For some reason, she talked about her threesome experience and even mimed the actions. We all felt weirded out. Girl we just met. Laughing my ass off. Story 20. It was a long time ago, but I had gone out on a date with this woman. Everything was good. Then she got a cigarette out and it made me lose attraction to her. The smell is so bad I couldn't focus on anything else. Story 21. One time, we went on holiday together with our friends to the Christmas markets in Belgium. Once there, she kept acting like a spoiled brat. I immediately lost interest in her. Story 22. Hitting on me in front of her husband at a bar. Aggressively. She was pretty vulgar. She took rejection really badly too, really badly. Side note. You have every type of guy coming out of nowhere in the comments section. It's pretty wild. Story 23. First date out for dinner, and our waitress had autism. She did a great job, but afterwards my date commented that she shouldn't be working there. As soon as she said the last word, I said, "Lose my number," and walked away. Story 24. She was cute, smart, and had a sexy European accent, but her arrogance made her super unattractive to me. She kept bragging about how great she was at everything. Big turn off. She also laughed at things that weren't funny. I ditched her mid-date, couldn't take it any longer. Story 25. First date. I talked to her about my nerdy hobbies, and her response was, "EW, that's weird." Whatever attraction I had towards her went out the window immediately, and it's not the first time this has happened, making it hard to open up about my interests. Story 26. She is someone who avoids men and justifies it by claiming, "It's dangerous for women out there." So she feels she is not required to engage in any forms of mature communication because of it. It turns out this same person has been mistreated in the past due to her lack of communication and boundaries and is still being manipulated by the same toxic person many years later. The only person who should be ignored isn't, but everyone else is. She has learned nothing. Instant loss of attraction from me. Story 27. Back in high school, I managed to talk my crush into picking me up at around midnight to go on a cruise. We had just shared our first kiss, so I was hoping to have our second and hang out driving around. She texted me, "Here." So I sneaked out the door and rushed to her car. As soon as I opened the door, the stench of her soccer cleats burned my nostrils. I'm not kidding, it was so smelly I coughed getting in the car. She acted like nothing was wrong, but I could not get over the smell of trench foot and Cheetos. I made it a few miles and asked her to drop me off. I got out of the car and said goodbye. Things were never the same after that night. Story 28. I was interested in this woman for a while and went to hang out with her for Netflix and chill. I noticed her eating something out of the corner of my eye. I watched her pick her nose and eat the result. That was it for me. Story 29. Maybe I am just comfortable with talking about sexual encounters, but my partner and I talk about our past experiences in pretty graphic detail, and it does not bother me one bit. We have talked about foursomes and threesomes we have had, who we have slept with that we both know, all types of fetishes and kinks we have tried but are not into. It does not even faze me one bit, but I can understand how someone could be uncomfortable with hearing it. However, I was at a woman's house one time and dropped my phone between her bed and the wall. I reached down and found a bunch of wet tissues. We moved the bed so I could get it, and there was so much garbage. It was disgusting. I never talked to her again. Story 30. This might be silly for some people, and it's strange for me too because I'm a pretty understanding and laid-back guy. However, excessive swearing and when women refer to themselves as being difficult or unpleasant bothers me. I don't mind swearing in private conversations or even at parties, but when I'm out to dinner with a girl and inappropriate language is every other word, it makes my skin crawl. It bothers me so much, especially when it's a space where there could be kids. I legitimately feel sick with nerves. As for the negative or unpleasant behavior, it seems women in my age group, 24, for some reason, take a lot of pride in being nasty or emotionally immature, and this train of thought hasn't failed me yet. I don't have time for negative people. Story 31. Do you know what the biggest oppressed minority is? Women. I don't deny there are many aspects where women struggle unfairly, but from this to oppressed minority, there is a huge gap. Story 32. When I was single, a friend's wife set me up with one of her girlfriends to go on a date. I was really attracted to her. When I picked her up, it was raining, so I bought an umbrella before the date, so I could walk her from her front door to the car. I knocked on her front door, and she answered and asked me what I was doing, like she thought I was being ridiculous. Whatever, maybe she just wasn't used to someone doing nice things for her. A couple of minutes into our drive, we were talking about what we do for a living. She was a part-time gym coach with no other full-time job or income. I told her I work at the shipyards. I do okay financially and like my job. She said, So you work for the government? That sucks. I would try to get out of that if I were you. Definitely not a good career. I don't work for the government, as I am with a private subcontractor company. Either way, her putting me down for trying to be nice at her front door and acting like my job I enjoy sucks was a turnoff. Oh yeah, after bowling, we went to eat. We sat at the bar, and I ordered a Budweiser bottle. She asked the bartender to sample 5 different beers. This is a normal bar, not a craft beer bar or anything, and then said, I don't like any of those. I'm a Coors girl anyways. Can I get a Coors? Never talked to her again. Story 33. Toxic attitude for sure. I was really interested in this one girl a while back who worked as a hairdresser or something like that. One day, I overheard her talking with a friend and mocking a customer of hers for losing their dad and being sad about it. My attraction to her dropped to 0 in an instant. Story 34. I had been seeing this girl for a couple of months, and things were going very well. I had introduced her to my friends, and we were considering flying out to each other's hometowns for the winter holidays, Thanksgiving, and Christmas. About a month before Thanksgiving, we went out to one of our usual bars with some friends, and she was drinking pretty heavily, which was fine since I was being conscious of my drinking so we could get home safely. She joked that she likes to see her man being capable of defending her. About 20 minutes later, I heard her loudly say, "You wouldn't say that if my man was with me," or something along those lines, to a group of 3 guys. Obviously, she had started the confrontation, and the guys came up to me as she pointed me out. I told them she was trying to get me to defend her by getting me into a fight, and I would no longer be associating with her. The other guys were surprised, and they apologized for almost jumping me and bought me a couple of rounds. I took a ride home and didn't talk to her again. A few months later, I saw her with another guy, and she was screaming and crying as he was lying on the floor unconscious because she had started some trouble with a guy, and her current man had gotten the punishment. She could have gotten me killed. Story 35, well, almost the same as you. I would add toxic dynamics like showing interest just to boost her self-esteem and flirting with others to provoke me so I pay attention to her. Then trying to talk to her and her responding rudely or not at all.